Very, very much conversation. Pleasure to welcome to the program a dear friend of conversations and Harold Channer, that being Nita Renfrew, one of the very, if not the very smartest person in all of Manhattan and New York City, and a guest often of conversation. I love you, darling, and everything like that. Nita Renfrew, a writer extraordinaire, and somebody who's always involved in so many different things. So good to see you again, my darling. Welcome to the set.
Well, thank you, Harold.
I understand you. After all, you're always one of the most busily involved people I've ever in all my life known, and you're always involved in a way that's very, very creative and very, important and everything. And I hear tell that you've, as well as taking care of all life's necessities and all of that, you've become very interested in and active with the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Well, I have, and I want to say
interesting, yeah.
That this is the first time I've spoken publicly about my interest in the OWS movement.
Yeah.
And I want to say something about why I'm dressed like this.
Yeah, you're dressed like
I am
man of the cloth, a woman of the cloth.
I am an ordained minister.
Are you really?
I'm an interfaith, interspiritual minister.
When did you fit that into your busy
agenda? And I don't ever wear this collar.
Yeah.
But I decided to wear it today because I think that when one is wanting political change in this country,
Amen.
I think one of the things that's really missing is that whole spiritual dimension.
You do, okay.
And I don't usually wear this because I don't support most of organized religion, and I also don't support a lot of what's going on in the, outside of organized religion and the so-called spiritual groups.
Oh, okay.
However, I am ordained. I was ordained. I belong to the community of the Mystic Heart, which was started in honor of Wayne Dwyer, who was a lay monk.
I do remember that name, I do believe, but when did this happen?
Well, and I was, it's been, I'm a healer, so this
I know,
has been over the
well,
years.
you got into Reiki
Yeah,
and all
I've
that.
been ordained for about 10 years.
Oh, 10 years only, not back when we've known each other way back decades, yeah.
And
she's always coming up with something new.
I consider
like Andy
that
Main.
I'm a part of the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Very good,
They might not know that I am, but it's sort of like you're the one who takes the initiative here.
Yeah.
But I am a member of it as a member of the faith group.
Okay.
Meaning that I'm a member of it as a member of the spirit of what I consider to be the spiritual ingredient, which is lacking in the country. And I think that that's one reason that people have allowed corporations to take over, because in the schools and so on, they've, it's like it was not a good thing to have religion mixed up in the schools, and it's not a good thing to have religion mixed in with government. But what we've done is we've thrown out the baby with the bathwater.
You really think so?
Yeah.
Huh?
So people have just, people don't have a sense anymore of what's right. There's no sense of morality. I mean, you look at Wall Street. These people feel like, they're doing business, and as long as it's not against the law to do something, or as long as they can hire a consultant to get around it,
right,
it's okay.
Yeah,
and they don't
be creative. They see it as creatively working algorithms.
There's
and
no
things.
sense of of some kind of a obligation to the society. There's no social contract, no sense of it. This has been lost. So I think that we've thrown out the baby with the bathwater.
Well,
and
okay, it's a big thing. Yeah, I'm not so sure it's all complete.
I would personally like to be a witness to finding a way to bring in a spirituality that isn't all of the
religio.
Yeah, all the
I think
stuff
religio means to hold. It's a thing by people ground themselves.
Yeah.
And I think in general, one of the biggest challenges to the whole idea of change, which is so in the air now, thank goodness, and everything, all this forensic stuff with the mortgages and that sort of thing, and the banks coming under pressure. I think the biggest, Look
at this guy. He's beautiful. This is a former bishop of New York, Bishop Packer, of the Episcopal Church.
Okay, yeah, let's show. Yeah, okay, let's put
when
it up.
the Occupy, as everybody knows, I guess, the Occupy people were thrown out of Zuccotti Park.
Yeah,
even
on the
though
17th of January, I
It's a
think.
park that's it's open to the public 24 hours a day, but still they were thrown out. And they wanted to set up their camp, their
Can we
presence
show this, or
on a
Josh?
piece of land that belongs
There we
to
go.
Trinity Church, Wall Street.
Uh-huh.
And the priests at Trinity Street, Wall Street, were giving them a bit of, just a little bit of help. You know, they were allowing them every now and then to meet at Trinity Street. At
Okay.
Trinity
Oh,
Wall
were
Street
they? When
Church
they were in
and so on.
Zuccotti, yeah.
Well, it was just a block away.
Uh-huh.
And so they thought, well, you know, we can go and take over this, you know, this little triangle of this park.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
And they did, but the church called the police and had them evicted. And so they started doing some research, and they found out that Trinity Church is the third largest real estate owner in New York. It's a very
Really?
wealthy
Yeah, right.
place.
Uh-huh.
And the vestry members are all the
That's
top
beautiful,
people
yeah.
at Goldman Sachs and all of these places.
Right.
So that's why they didn't want them there. So they got together again, and they tried to negotiate, you know, that they would stay there. And, you know, and of course the church said, well, they don't have the proper facilities and this. I mean, they don't worry about whether the people who are homeless have the proper facilities, but they were worried about these people, you know. So the bishop
You mean
actually...
as a bureaucratic ploy?
This bishop actually, I mean, and look, he's an older man.
Yeah, I see, yeah.
He actually, this fence was about 7 or 8 feet high. And he actually was the first person over the fence. And when he got over, just
Yeah,
a
right.
few
Well,
seconds
maybe
after
we can
this,
bring it back. Yeah.
he fell 6 feet.
6 feet's a long way to
It's-
fall.
it's
Let's
a
see.
long
Let's
way to
get a
fall.
picture of the good father again.
And,
Yeah.
you know, nothing happened to him.
Uh-huh.
Well, the
He's
police
all
came
right.
and arrested everybody. He was the first person.
Did they pop the good father?
They arrested
They
him. He was
arrested
the first
him.
one.
Okay, yeah.
And then they arrested everybody else who came over the wall and so on. And the Occupy people decided, well, you know, we're not going to press this because what's the purpose? You know, we've made our attempt, and we don't really want to have the image of people who are destructive in the long run and so on. So they sort of backed off.
Yeah.
But this guy had such courage. I
Yeah.
just really admire him.
Uh-huh.
So
You're in association with him or no?
I
or
met
just
him
from
that day and
afar?
I talked to him. I
Yeah,
don't-
okay,
you know,
yeah,
he's not
yeah.
somebody I hang out with.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
so I'm, in a way, that sort of inspired me. I said, you know, I'm really a member of this group.
The
of
Occupy.
the faith group.
Oh,
of
the faith group. Okay,
within
yeah.
the Occupied movement.
Uh-huh.
Meaning that's where I'm coming from.
Uh-huh.
I'm no longer a sort of a street activist or something. You know, it's like I'm over 20.
Yeah, right. No,
I'm over
I'm here to
30.
testify. Yes, let's keep counting the decade, and the decades roll by.
And you know, I've evolved. I've been very interested in this movement because, as you know, I spent, you know, I used to do journalism.
I know you did. Very
before
good
I did
journalism.
the healing stuff. And
Yeah.
back in the 90s, I spent 7 years, you know, documenting and interviewing the militia members.
You
at the
did
time
it
and
right.
so on.
The shooting edge.
And of course, they were organized around the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment being the right to keep and bear arms,
Right.
not for the purpose of going duck shooting or something, which is what the NRA was putting out at the time. But because people like Thomas Jefferson and James Madison said, you know, the Second Amendment, and Mason, you know,
Yeah.
George Mason, who was an ancestor of mine,
Yeah.
they said,
Was he really?
yeah,
interesting.
collateral ancestor. of
Okay,
mine,
yeah, okay, interesting.
So
yeah.
his sister was my ancestor. So, you know, these people basically insisted on the Second Amendment because they said if all else fails in
get
the
in.
country,
Right.
the people should be armed so they can take back the country and the government.
Right. No,
And
no.
that's the reason
Yeah.
for the Second Amendment.
Right. Yeah.
So that movement in the 90s, it was infiltrated by the government. It wasn't popular in the cities because the liberals are sort of anti-gun. They don't understand what the Second Amendment is about.
That's the time of Waco,
At the
Ruby
time
Ridge,
of Waco, Ruby Ridge, all those horrible
Koresh,
things.
and all that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the militia movement sort of went underground because the government ended up arresting a lot of the key leaders.
Right.
And setting them up, you know, and one guy from Georgia, they said they found bomb-making materials on his in his farm,
Yeah.
and the bomb-making materials were pipes. Well, it turns out that the guy was a plumber. You know?
I'm sorry. It's good to be able to laugh
they said,
at the absurdity.
these are the ingredients for pipe bombs, and that's what you saw on the news.
That's like, what do
Nobody
they
ever
call
heard
that? Dual use.
Yeah,
Dual
exactly.
use, you know. Didn't you have a thing where they were going to go in Iraq with the thing and they wouldn't let pencils go in because they could be ground out if you made it?
That's true. I forgot.
Yeah, I know. It's
could be used.
unbelievable how they will stretch things in order to make their political point. Yeah.
So anyway, so last year, the past 10 years I've been doing healing work. I sort of burned out on the political thing. I never published my book. I will one day.
Wait a minute. You published Saddam Hussein.
Yeah,
and that was a major work.
But I'm talking now about the
Shooting
militia
Edge.
thing, the Shooting Edge.
Yeah.
America's Shooting Edge is the name of it.
Uh-huh.
And so I see,
You were publishing it on the internet, weren't you?
I published a few chapters.
Yeah, okay,
but
good.
I sort of, I'm not quite.
You're a really good writer.
It
Do you
needs
know
a lot
that?
of
You
editing
realize
still.
that? No, you still think it needs a lot of editing?
It needs a lot of editing.
I got the copy, that you gave me
Yes, I
from
know.
the back. I got it stashed in a
But anyway,
safe
I
place.
knew, look, the movement, people haven't, nothing has gotten better. So obviously,
Right.
People are just out there. And I feel like the country is asleep because so many people, a large percentage of our population is on drugs. I mean, they're taking tranquilizers or painkillers or something. And we wouldn't have had an American Revolution if everybody had been on tranquilizers at the time.
Well, yeah, think about that. Revolution's a big word.
Well, but we need a revolution.
You think we do?
Well,
Okay, I think that
it
is...
doesn't necessarily have to be armed. And the militias did not want an armed revolution. They wanted, they wanted the government to back down because they were educating people and bringing stuff out into the light. And by the way, a lot of what the left and these protesters are bringing out is it's all material that the militias were putting out. It's thanks to them that we know a lot of that stuff on the Federal Reserve and all of that. They were disseminating this knowledge back in the 90s. These people were, I remember there were people who were, instead of buying shoes for their children, and they didn't have jobs, they were making Xerox copies of documents and so on and handing them out to people.
Yeah, what's the name of the lady up in Maine? Shoot?
Carolyn Chute.
Chute, yeah.
Who wrote The
How's
Beans
she
of
doing?
Egypt, Maine.
Yeah.
Well,
You in touch?
I read in the paper a few months ago, I guess maybe last year, that she had decided to close down the two militias she was the head of.
Okay, whatever.
So I don't know what's happened now with the Occupy.
Yeah.
This is right up her alley.
Now, the militia, is that part of what would be seen as a libertarian or right-wing kind of take on things?
Libertarian.
So you're not talking about your run-of-the-mill commies or Marxists
I'm talking
or
about
something.
maybe Ron Paul.
Ron Paul is now
Yeah.
very prominent in the
Okay.
Republican circles. Yeah.
Ron Paul, that's where I first encountered
Federal
Ron
Reserve,
Paul, because they used to give
yeah.
me copies of his newsletter and so on, and
Yeah.
and it made perfect sense. And
It did.
it's middle America.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well these people are still armed because we have, and I don't remember. I saw I think the NRA.
Yeah.
What's the membership there? It's
I don't know.
It's way up in the millions.
It's very big lobbying agent. Yeah.
Somebody said to me, that's an army in itself, because all of those people have rifles and whatever and so on.
Yeah.
A lot of the people inside the police, inside the military and so on are, were supporters of the militia movement. I doubt that that's changed.
Yeah, they
so
were
now,
supporters.
all of a
That's
sudden,
interesting.
last September the
That's
17th,
interesting, yeah.
Zuccotti Park is occupied by these people, and they start getting arrested, and they start, and on the
you got a
third day,
mask?
a whole bunch of them were arrested
All
for
right,
wearing this mask.
Oh, well, let's put it on, yeah.
Let's put it on.
Well, yeah. All right.
So this
but the trouble is my glasses get in the way, so let me get rid of my glasses.
You're not allowed
can't-
to wear masks, in public.
What do you mean you're not
so you
allowed
have to wear it.
What do you mean you're not allowed to wear masks?
No, because you're covering up your face, and the police can't identify who you are. So you
Baloney.
So you wear it on the back of your head or on the top of your head.
Oh, you do that? That's what you do, and so they can see it from the back,
So
right?
they can,
Okay.
because that way they can identify you.
Yeah, okay.
They can see your
But
eyes.
this is the Vendetta, right?
This is the mask from V for Vendetta.
We're going to show a clip of that, right?
It was made by the same people who made The Matrix.
Uh-huh.
So it was a picture of, and it had a big following when it came out a few years ago.
Yeah, sure.
Across Middle America, among the young people, I understand.
Yeah.
And so then there was this group that called themselves Anonymous that would appear with wearing these masks. That started doing these amazing things, hacking into
on the internet,
banks and the government and so on, and putting out these statements saying, that we're going to take back the earth and we're not going to put up with this corporate.
There are a lot of statements. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
And so this mask sort of has become one of the indicators of this movement.
An iconic thing.
Exactly.
You're studying iconics
although,
now, I understand. Yeah.
Although one of the occupied people said to me, remember that if you buy it, the corporation that owns that is getting
going to make a profit. God damn.
So I thought about hand making one, but then I decided it was easy to go get one.
Another stone
and by the way,
on the Mount
I had to go to 3 Ricky's to get it because they had sold out.
What's a Ricky's? Is that a jean store?
They're these costume stores.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know. Okay, yeah.
And they had, at the third one, the man went back in the back room and found 2.
You mean to get these masks?
Yeah.
Well, aren't they all of them the Vogue now and everything like that? I mean, isn't it a big thing? Maybe we should say, what is this? They've sold out. Okay, that's a good sign.
People are buying them, exactly.
So what do you think? It's cold, it's winter and all that. What do you think? I told some number of friends, I am happy I lived long enough, all these many decades, to see this little fledgling
thing. Well, I
am
too, because it's the only thing that gives me
to where they're actually going to question things in a fundamental way.
It gives me some hope.
It gives me hope that they're never, because it's never happened.
It's never happened.
They would be against the war or women's rights or civil rights or something. But this is different. Yeah, let me hold it up for the camera.
The Protester is a whole issue of Time magazine.
Wait a minute.
It includes the Occupy Wall Street people.
Yeah.
And on the cover, it mentions them from Occupy Wall Street to Moscow. I mean, they got on the cover in a couple of months.
Yeah.
When we think about other revolutionary movements, it took the civil rights movement 10 years to get.
It's slow. And look at the women; they couldn't vote in 19. Well, the thing is, history. I was talking with Randall today, and he's talking about justice and everything. And it was Robinson. Was it Randall Robinson who tried to get reparations for slavery?
I don't
but
remember
it's they're trying to get reparations for the injustices that have been legion throughout all of history. How do we get reparations done?
What I want to say is that what's interesting now, and of course this movement, and in here it tells a bit of the story. A man named David Graeber, who is I guess he's an American, but he teaches at some university in London, and he's a well-known anthropologist.
Yeah.
And he coined the term of "we are the 99%,"
we
which
put
is
it up
brilliant.
Is this the way we do it? Is that the way it's done now?
Well, I just want it to be.
I'm just trying to follow suit here, dear. I mean, you're wearing it like a.
I guess this is the way to wear it.
Wear that like this, maybe down like this.
Yeah.
Where did you put the band?
Like this.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I got it upside down. Okay. Okay, so listen, I'm going to go with you, girl.
So David Graeber is this anthropologist, and his dream was to start a worldwide, anti-corporate movement, which he did. And
now, who are you talking about? Sorry, I missed.
This anthropologist who coined the term "we are the 99%."
Okay.
So apparently, he was part of preparing for that occupation on September the 17th. During the summer.
Right.
And this magazine, Adbusters, they ran an ad in July calling on people to occupy Zuccotti Park on September the 17th, and it said, "Bring sleeping bags."
Yeah.
So
Danny Schechter had been doing some things before that.
They planned this thing, and it worked. And it's absolutely incredible because even though they've taken the park away from them, I mean, they're meeting in an atrium on Wall Street, right under Deutsche Bank, all day long, every day, and they have marches every single day.
Yeah.
They have all kinds of actions. They're passing resolutions. They're it's like I mean these kids, because a lot of them are kids. Most of them are kids.
Right.
They are so impressive. I mean, it's like I really regained my hope in humankind.
Okay, I'm really happy to hear that. I think you got a good repair when you go to the youth, because they're usually idealistic and up for change.
I got this thing down there the other day.
Okay, here's another thing she got.
And it's something that they call an intersectionality chart.
Intersectionality chart.
And somebody said that's a term that comes out of
You spilled your...
some academic women's studies or something.
Okay, yeah. Well,
But
these things grow up on...
Instead of calling it intersectionality, I'm going to call it interrelatedness. And it basically shows how everything is connected. All of our grievances are connected.
Okay, I can't say anything because I'm holding the chart, but explain it to the audience.
Straight up corruption, too much, and then it gets into it enables the top 1% of Americans own more than half of the asset. This is inherently a problem. That points down to income disparity. That goes down to they have taken bailouts from taxpayers with impunity and continue to give executives exorbitant bonuses.
Right.
Then there's the ecological responsibility, the consolidation of information without accountability, over consolidation of power, disregard for human dignity. I mean, these kids are brilliant.
Yeah. Where do you get this? Do they have...
they have...
Let me look at it a second and see.
They have, it's like this paper they put out.
We have continuously sought to strip employees of their right to negotiate for better pay and safety. Yeah, it's just endless kinds of complications.
I mean, this is tremendous.
Income it's like shock doctrine, profiting stuff. Yeah, this is an indictment of the system.
I mean, here's an article by Cornel West on
Cornel West. I like Cornel
West.
West.
And there's another one by Barbara Kingsolver on the copy of this.
Who's that, Barbara?
She's a famous writer.
Okay, right. Okay.
And, it's like, and they have endless.
Where do you get
these?
these? Where do you get these?
I got it from somebody at a direct action meeting.
Direct action meeting. Is that something they do, right? They
have all these committees. And, they're continuing. They meet all the time. There are meetings all the time. There are all these actions. They are so well organized, and they go by, they vote on everything. Nobody interrupts them. Every now and then they have people who are disruptors. And, some of them it's spontaneous because some people are disruptive. I'm sure a lot of them are. But, they keep the meetings going. They have facilitators who are well trained.
General Assembly?
I mean, it's amazing. They have, their General Assembly. They vote on things. I mean, a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago before, they had $1 million in the bank, and everybody in the General Assembly would vote on everything, but you could go and vote too. It's like you didn't have to be a card-carrying member of anything.
Right.
So they have this really disparate, it's a really diffused organization, and that's their strength, because there's no way you can shut down a diffused organization.
That's what
there's
I
no
like.
Central organization.
That's what I like very much about.
So they can't. There's no way that anybody can control them.
Okay.
Now, they communicate.
Oh, go ahead. But I wanted to make a point. They're saying we want to go horizontal. That's what I hear them saying.
But they are horizontal.
They do not want to get on any one thing.
Which is true. Yeah.
Which I think is really great, because it's getting them out to where they will begin to get to a systems understanding.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
you understand what I mean? Rather than focusing on one particular issue of justice.
But they're already, that was their point of departure.
But they haven't got there yet, have they?
Yes, they have.
You think they have? I don't think so yet.
Put it on.
Okay. Don't I look like a clown? I look like something out of a Salvador Dali painting. But it's okay. I mean, I don't know how much more.
You look like Guy Fawkes.
Hand me your chart. Your Guy Fawkes or something. Yeah, sure, I'll just do it. Put this thing up in front of that, and we're just getting the thing all done. But no, but that they're.
So here's a Wall Street literary review.
This thing.
And they have an article by Peter Lamborn Wilson in it.
This is so good. I like this.
It's fantastic.
No,
I had to practically steal it from the guy because he said they had distributed it before.
So this is like a thing where they're assuming the good guys and the bad guys, and they're bad guys, and they're the ones who are running everything.
It's the 1%.
And they've got the 1%.
So they were basically talking about an insurrection against corporate rule.
Now, can we go back?
That's what it was.
When was their last time? Because you've done a lot of. Make a point.
I want to tie this into the militia movement.
I feel a little silly in this hat. Let me see how it looks on you.
What we have in this country. You
have to put the mask down. There you go. Now that looks like, get that as a one-shot, Lydia. Now look at that. That looks like something That's like a fashion statement. There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, just get it. You're only showing the one eye. Yeah. No, face the camera direct. Face the camera direct. There you go. That's the one shot. That's really good.
So
that's
anyway,
the killer shot. Go ahead.
So
yeah.
anyway, you know, you got all these different groups. You have, you know, like you have the people who were from the Patriot movement in
Right.
the 90s, the militias and
Yeah.
the Patriots and so on. They're all, a lot of the Ron Paul people.
Uh-huh.
You have the civil rights group,
Right.
which are, you know, convening with the Occupy Wall Street. A whole bunch of the civil rights organizers
I can't
came up.
stand it. I got
Came up a couple of months ago and met down at Judson Memorial Church and advised these
Judson's
kids
great.
to include older people because they had that had been their major failing. They had not included older people. They thought everybody over 30 was, you know, for the birds.
Right.
And they said include older people because now that we're older, we understand that, you know, that older people have wisdom.
Uh-huh.
And then, you know, you have, like, in the southern part of this country, you have the Mexicans who are retaking, you know, the land for, you know, for the natives who were here before all the Europeans came.
I can't.
Then you've got, you know, and I want to relate to that interview I did last year.
Yeah, that
where
was
I wanted,
funny, yeah.
Where I honored
Means.
Russell Means'
Russell Means,
program,
great,
Welcome
yeah.
to the Reservation.
What's happened to the indigenous people?
Well, you know, the whole AIM thing with,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
Wounded Knee and so on.
You look great.
And Russell Means was basically saying, look, we're, you know, welcome all you white people to the reservation.
Right,
Now, you
welcome
know,
to the
it started
West,
with
yeah.
us, but now you're all on it too. You know,
Yeah,
like
the trends are very worrying.
like-
it can be, yeah.
And then you got you know, you got all the college kids who can't find jobs or are not going to be able to
right,
find jobs
right,
when they
right,
get out.
right.
And then you have all these people who are losing their homes and, you know, the millions, you know, because they can't pay their mortgages and because they don't have jobs or whatever, you know. And so we have this confluence of people who have very different political leanings and so on, but the differences are melting away now because we're being squeezed by this corporate rule. I mean, they got the Glass-Steagall Act rescinded a few
Yeah, I
years ago
know.
and all this kind of thing. So
Clinton.
that's the 1%. That's the 1% down at Wall Street.
Yeah.
I mean, Wall Street is sort of a symbol of it.
Yeah.
And what's gonna and this is not gonna go away. So these people are all coming together. We are all coming together now, and we're gonna push. Now the militias and all of those people, they still have their weapons because
Do you have
it's
the
a
militia
Second
people
Amendment
involved?
movement. But these people are into nonviolence. You
Yeah.
see, so. This is a whole new kind of a revolution because in the past you've had people who were either into weapons or into Gandhi was into nonviolence.
Yeah.
But we have everything
As
here.
a strategy, yeah.
We've got everything, and we've got because of the technology, things are moving really fast. Facebook, Twitter, you know, they use their
Right.
cell phones, the Occupy Wall Street people, and so on. And of course, it's possible to organize a lot more quickly. It's also possible for the government to know what you're thinking and what you're saying and where you go and everything because of all this technology. So it's, you know, it's a weapon of two edges. It's a sword with two edges.
The time is that way.
But it's that way. But because there's so many of them, and the organization is so diffuse, I don't see how anybody's going to be able to to shut this down.
Well,
it's going to go places.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right. I'm not at all sure. There've been people who've been fighting for justice in a world that has been, in broad terms, over practically all of it, civilization, unjust in its social structure. There have always been slaves.
You don't have any water, do you?
No, I don't have any water. No, here is a little shot of coffee. Yeah, that's good coffee. No, sorry, we don't have any water. We could do it, but that and the thing is, this is also, but this is not one particular issue. And then the thing, and it's not one thing. They're going horizontal, and this thing seems to be of a different nature, and it's gone all over the world. Because the world is unjust in terms of all the institutions we've inherited. And I wondered, when do we had a break with feudalism about 1776. There was a huge kind of break with the feudal order that had held for 1,000 years.
Well, it's coming back now.
Now, wait a minute. Well, feudalism is coming back in terms of the unjust and the serf-like role for people who are coming. But that was a major break that resulted in the United States of America from a feudal order that had held 1,000 years after Rome. Rome had held for 1,000 years, unjust, few people running everything as it was with kings, Romans, you know. And then we got to this sort of system. Now we got a thing in place. And what is it about now that makes something real, a culminating thing from all the sense of injustice that's had to be tolerated by the people in terms of capability to make it otherwise and so on? What makes this difference, and how big a change are we talking about? Are we talking about a new political party? Are we talking about a new tax law? Or what? What is it that's making this time a time of qualitative change, and how far out in understanding of that change can we go in order to get something that is large enough to encompass what might be coming, what's being proposed by the impetus behind this thing, which is unprecedented, and it's everywhere in the world.
Everywhere in the world, yeah.
Yeah. What is there about this time that makes this time unique, perhaps not just in a political or historical sense, in a species sense, in a large, qualitative, evolutionary sense, rather than merely a political, historical sense?
This is the question.
Yeah, but it isn't being addressed, I don't think, very often.
Because we can't know. I mean, you know, how could you address evolution before it happens?
Well, you can. We can understand better, can't we? Understand the reality now?
I don't think we can. I don't think we know what's going to happen.
No, we can't. If we're in the womb, you can't know what's outside the womb.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But do you think we're coming? Let's say, for instance, are we coming to the end of the human experience? Is it just another political change, a little changing of the boats on the Titanic?
No, I don't think so.
No, it's something qualitative. So where do you get to?
Well, I think the whole system is going to collapse.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, when you say that,
and a lot of people believe, including you, that we're going to eradicate human beings. I
don't think that.
I think there'll be a few million people left after there are a bunch of nuclear wars.
Let's address that. You know? Can we address that? Can we address it, please? Yeah. Whether or not the weapons that have been existing and are the extension of human consciousness, which is making our situation different than in an Eden-like sense as a lot of all the creatures in an evolutionary sense, finally, at least according to a lot of modeling, reached the point, not even at the time of Cuba, when there was a missile crisis. They would destroy civilization, came in a hair's breadth, really, with all the realpolitik thing. But the weapons became, in their collective capability, species lethal. Yeah. You don't think, were they ever that way? Do you think now, because of START and Reagan and Gorbachev and that now we were at that point and then we backed off from that? Well, so now we're okay at a species level? Were they ever species lethal? Well, if they weren't ever species lethal, how long will it be before we do, by having realpolitik still being the way in which the world operates, whoever's got the gun rules? That's what is essentially being asserted.
A lot of people believe that we have wiped out civilization on a number of occasions in this earth, and it is true that archaeologists find technology and so on that existed thousands and thousands of years ago, before what we consider to be history. So it's possible that
I don't know what you just said. What are you talking about?
It's possible that that we've gone through this before, and then there are all these stories of Atlantis and so on.
Well, yeah. But there's all kinds of creation stories and things that we came up with.
These stories are very possible.
And a lot of these spiritual things are nothing more than addressing the need of a self-reflective consciousness.
I don't think so. You see, I think they might be a memory of something that really happened.
Well, that's one way of
if we wipe everything out.
Now, do you think we have the capability? We didn't have it in the Second World War.
But I think that if
you do,
yes, but
that's
I don't
premise.
think that because you do have the capability means that you necessarily will do something.
No, but it is an.
No, but what I'm going to say, Harold, is if we do wipe out civilization and leave some people alive, there won't be anything left, and so a few 1,000 years in the future, they won't remember that there had been civilization. There will be these myths and so on.
Well, there's a difference.
That will sound like some kind of religion.
There's a difference. We've always done that. We've wiped out how many? 250 million in the Second World War. We were limited in what we could do. We were firebombing Dresden. We were killing. We were hating. We were doing all kinds of unjust things. Firebombing civilians and that. We knew we were doing war crimes all over the place. Injustice. Vietnam. Vietnam, all this. We were doing it, we were impotent. But something happened around 19. What makes this time different?
But it may
That's
not
what I'm
be.
trying to
What
get
I'm
at.
saying is it may have happened 30,000 years ago.
Well, I don't understand where that comes from.
Well, I don't. That's a whole other program. I mean,
Okay.
it's like there's a lot of research done on it, and that's not my field.
You mean like some flying saucers or something?
No. Meaning there's, archaeologists find a lot of unexplained phenomena that goes way back, 30,000 years and so on, that would indicate that there was, superior technology and so on.
What is that? Oh, okay.
But that's a different. That's a
okay.
different
That's a whole other
conversation, I
premise.
think,
It doesn't sort
I mean,
of.
right now, I think, what I'm thinking is, I'm really hopeful because of the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Well, okay.
Because I find that, I was so hopeless, feeling so hopeless last year. And I was just thinking, and I was feeling hopeless because people, I wasn't seeing anybody react. It's like everybody is walking around like a zombie, but I think it's because we take all these pills in this country and so on.
Well, people are very loath to do anything. They're really, if they can get a limited amount of security or
People
something,
have
they will just overlook everything.
Well, like Ralph Nader said, he said Americans have developed a tolerance for anything, for...
Yeah, well, there's one. Ralph Nader had
yeah.
a really good idea. He had very integrity.
Yeah.
And nobody copped to it because people have their own identities wrapped up in their job
Well,
and their condition and their
I guess it was
historical
about a year
context.
ago, he led a march and there were 30 or 40,000 people.
Really?
Down in Wall Street, and it was on page 20-something of the New York Times.
Yeah.
A little 1-inch. I mean,
Yeah.
But these Occupy Wall Street, these young kids
Yeah.
have changed the debate.
Well, what have they changed it to? That's what I'm getting at.
Well,
what are
they've
they
changed it too.
encompassing?
They've changed it too. There's an awareness now of the inequities that there wasn't 6 months ago. Meaning they've changed the possibility of actually talking about these things to the people. I mean, it's like people are talking about the wealth divide now, which they weren't before.
Well,
people were blaming,
in some circles, they were always talking
very
about
small
the wealth
circles.
divide,
But now, just ordinary people are. I mean, it's like, people are. The one thing people aren't talking about, and this is really awful, is this national, what is it, Defense Authorization Act that passed on New Year's Eve. That's unbelievable. It's
They seize you and put you in and never lock away. They throw it away. There goes habeas corpus. There goes posse comitatus.
I heard one of the senators was asked. I saw him interviewed. Why did you include Americans in it? As if it's okay for non-Americans.
Right.
And he said, well, the Americans were not included in the original legislation that we proposed, and it was the Obama administration that asked us to include Americans.
Right.
So I can only think that. Because they sort of mention terrorists like, I don't know, Al-Qaeda or something, and of course they didn't mention Americans, but I thought, what they have in the back of their minds is the Occupied movement. It's like all of these people and all of the other groups that are going to start coming out of the woodwork soon.
Okay. Also, when things really start getting dire, people don't have food, they're hungry and everything.
Exactly. So these people already, they have the weapon, so they can start putting people like you and me in jail
for wearing masks like this.
For wearing a mask like this,
and they have particularly.
And they have proof that
we did it because it's on the damn tape and it's being broadcast all over the world.
It's like right now it's against the law to wear it out in the street in a march or something, but they'll find some law that'll say it's against the law. That applies to television too because it's a public.
Well, what do you mean it's against the law to wear it? What do you mean? You go on a parade, you can't wear this mask?
You cannot wear any mask.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
There's a law in New York that you cannot wear a mask.
How can they do that? On Halloween you can't wear a mask?
Well, I don't know how, but I just know that a lot of people were arrested from the Occupy on the third day of the Zuccotti thing for wearing masks.
Well, they're trying to hit down hard, aren't they?
So what they do now is they wear them like this, or they wear them on the back of the head.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that a true fact?
Yeah.
What kind of nonsense is that in a country supposedly free?
Well, this way you got two faces, you like Janus,
Yeah, Janus. Well, you have one on the front and one on the... Do it. Here, do it, honey. With the hat. Put it on the front, too, and then put your hat on.
Yeah,
now get this on a close-up, Josh. Get this, and then try to get the hat. Here, put on the hat. Hey, we're getting you all made up like a... Cecil B. DeMille production.
I got to take my glasses off.
I know, the glasses get in the way. Okay, now put the hat on. Okay, That's it. That's it.
Is that it?
Yeah. Now turn. Now you're getting this Langley, yeah, like Janice. Okay, that's Janice. Okay,
yeah. The future and the past.
Yes, right,
we
right.
Got,
and we're going to make sure we got that shot.
We got a lot going on.
We got that sent right off to Langley, so they'll be able to know where to go to get the.
Well, they're going to be upset.
I can't believe they're going to tell you can't wear a mask.
We can't identify her, with that mask on. So therefore, it's illegal.
Right.
You know? I mean,
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, I know it's really bad. But again, back to that. What is there? It's all over the world. And it's going on all over the world, and people are sensing.
Occupy Wall Street, basically, they're what they say is that it was inspired in the Egyptian, movement.
Well,
that
in Egypt,
started at the beginning of last year,
before the revolution,
on Liberty Square, and so they call it. They call Zuccotti Park Liberty Park.
Well, yeah, right.
And,
in Egypt, before the revolution, you had 40 million people living on $1 a day. After the revolution, or their Liberty Square, there are 40 million people living on $1 a day. It's economics.
Yeah.
It's economics, and it's
but that's what they're talking. Occupy Wall. That's why it's Occupy Wall Street. It's an insurrection against corporate rule. You see, and so their role is the role. It's the role of the prophet. The prophet basically sheds light on what's going. He speaks truth to power.
So do you think
it speaks truth to the power? Well, but the prophet is not running for election, is not creating a political party or something. This is in history. So the role of these people is to shed the light on what's going, and they've done this so amazingly.
Do you count all this thing about the mortgages and everything
part
of
that's
that
a big
movement?
Thing
and are they copying
course.
To that down to Judge Shack and all that?
Yes, definitely.
That they're talking about this down at Occupy Wall Street
to
bring fundamental challenge to banks that could hurt the banks
themselves. I went to a direct action meeting on Tuesday evening, and one of the things that they're going there's a case down in. I think it's Atlanta, where a woman had a mortgage for $300,000, which was sort of shoved down her throat. And if she had paid the whole thing, it would have come to over $1 million or something. Yeah. But she died, and the bank came to the family because she hadn't paid the mortgage for a while before she died. Maybe she didn't have a job. I don't know what. And they offered the family $2,500. For the house, I mean, it's a house that's worth $300,000.
Yeah, right.
And so they wanted the key, and they would give them $2,500.
Yeah.
So down at the direct action meeting, they were talking about demonstrating against Monsanto and in favor of small farms and so on. They were also talking about doing a march up here in solidarity of the march that's going to be in Atlanta to Bank of America, because it's Bank of America that's doing that. And so basically what they said, they were planning, they said, well, let's go to the, it was it wasn't Bank of America. That's another action they're doing for the mortgages. Okay. This was Chase. And
J.P. Morgan.
Yeah, so they said, well, the president of Chase lives here on the Upper East Side, and they know where he lives, so they're planning. Yeah, exactly. So they're planning to go to his house and offer him. They're going to make a great big $2,500 check, and say, "Well, here, we offer you this check in exchange for the keys to your house, which is what you're offering the woman down there."
Makes me think of Abby Hoffman. God, I loved Abby. He was great, and Jerry Rubin when he was in the
they're very
theatrical mode.
interested in
that was against a horrendous war.
In all of these different movements.
But do you think it is heralding that there's the system, more or less, I think it's fair to say, particularly after the downfall of the Soviet Union, is a capitalist system that runs the world and everything and informs the political thing. Do you think there is a challenge to the capitalist system, as there was a challenge in 1776 to a feudal order with its assize courts and all the rest of it? There was a qualitative change that would have been relatively small compared to what we're considering is going on now. If there was a challenge to the actual political and economic system that operates the superstructure of the world.
How many more minutes do we have?
We've got about 14.
Okay. Because the last show I ended when I was honoring Russell Means.
Yes, God
thing
bless
about
Russell Means.
Welcome to the
and Vernon
reservation.
Bellecourt and the American Indian
And I basically
movement.
ended by reading the Patrick Henry's call
Yeah.
to arms, where
Right.
he basically said, "Give me liberty or give me death."
Yeah, right.
And so that's the call that the Second Amendment people are going to make.
Okay, you're talking about
Okay.
Second Amendment. You're talking
Now
about
here,
shooting edge
we're talking
militia.
Yeah,
militia,
we're talking about that. Now here we're talking
It may
about.
come to that, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking that's if all else fails.
Yeah, right.
But in the meantime, all else hasn't failed yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're talking about trying to get these banks and everything to change.
Well, okay, that's interesting. If you're going to get the system not to
Yeah.
overthrow it,
Exactly.
or you're not going to all of a sudden get rid of the bad guys and put in good
Exactly.
guys or do that,
Exactly.
you're going to get a qualitative transformation that
Exactly.
involves some liberation of the people and the ecology,
Exactly.
but will involve elements of the system that can change
Exactly.
in a way that is called for because of a new
Yeah.
what? Reality in terms of technological reality or something? That's what I was trying to get at. What's going on that's behind
Well,
all
I think
this?
that basically what
So
the
you're going to
main-
include everybody
the
in a
main
way.
thing they want is to achieve is an awareness that corporations are responsible for the tragedies that are happening, but they're not accountable.
They should be accountable
because they
and
have
retroactively?
they're persons. They're considered to be persons, but they're not
Well,
accountable.
that's United,
Okay.
the
So-
move to amend is taking on a lot of steam now, to address that.
So it's
yeah.
a question of this
Citizens
corporate
United.
personhood,
Yeah.
where
Okay, but these are all issues that are skirting the thing. What's behind
they're
it all?
not skirting
And where
the
does
thing.
it stand?
These are the issues.
Well, they're not. They're specifics and everything. What's going on at
do
a
you mean
large
what's
sense?
going on?
Nobody seems to be getting at it that way.
Well, I don't understand your question.
Well, I mean, what's happening evolutionarily? When you get to the point where you can wipe
you mean
out
what's happening to my genes?
No,
and my,
no.
and my
At
DNA
a level,
or what?
there will be. If you go 200,000 years, you think we're still going to be going like Homo sapien?
Well, we might.
We're
we
going
might
to.
not.
We will have a qualitative transformation at some moment. We came out of Homo habilis, out of Australopithecine. We have come here 200,000 years. We get to the point where we can destroy the whole evolution of consciousness, existential,
I know, but
and
that's
we
what
may
I
have transcended
Yeah,
scarcity.
but we may have already destroyed that several times in the past.
Well,
We don't
that's
know.
the thing. I don't know where you come up with that,
Well, a lot of
except
people believe
Atlantis
that.
and kind of missed.
A lot of people believe that.
Anyway, I think it's important. You got something you want to read, though.
But
right?
anyway, I was going to say, one of the things that the Occupy Wall Street people have is they have general assemblies.
Yes, indeed. I understand.
And,
Yeah.
and they vote on things and they come up with
You
resolutions.
look great. Those masks, you really do, don't you?
never take it off
like
again.
a Fred Astaire or something, yeah.
And they have this resolution
Can you read?
to end corporate personhood.
Okay. Oh, well, okay. That's a very important issue.
Which and this is a resolution that I sent a copy to a friend of mine who is a lawyer, and he was very impressed with it. Now this is a resolution that was. I mean, they just, they have these assemblies. They just stand around in a park or something, and
Open mic,
and they
or
do the
something.
mic check, which
Mic
is
check, yeah.
it's a way of getting around. They're
Right.
not allowed to have microphones. So
Right,
what they
I
do
think
is,
it's clever, yeah.
say Harold, and then everybody will say Harold, Harold,
right,
Harold,
right,
and
yeah, I
so
know.
everybody hears, and then I'll say,
This is a Guy Fawkes mask, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Oh, it is Guy Fawkes. Yeah,
It's a
right.
Guy
Of course.
Fawkes,
Yeah.
So I say,
November 5th, isn't it? Yeah. Remember the 5th of November.
I make I make a whatever, I nominate so and so to be something or other. I make a move to this or that,
Yeah.
and then everybody
Yeah,
repeats
it's
what
like
he
a
says, and
general-
it goes on, and that's the way you get.
Yeah.
You get it amplified.
And they're
out
getting
there.
some consistent things that are coming.
Well-
Oh, you got something you want to read, and then we got a little clip from the film we want to
You got a
show.
little clip where my
Okay.
friends are going to come.
Okay.
So the resolution to end corporate personhood. The New York City General Assembly, convinced that one critical threat to authentic democratic self-governance comes from the fact that corporations have been defined as legal persons, declaring that persons are rightfully recognized as human beings whose essential needs include clean air, clean water, and safe and secure food, deeply disturbed that the granting of constitutional protections to corporations has compromised or resulted in the destruction of our communities, economy, democracy, and natural world in many ways, recalling that corporations are human-made legal fictions and that human citizens are the source of all legitimate power in any democracy, deeply concerned that corporations need only profit for survival, and that such profit and survival are often in direct conflict with the essential needs and rights of human beings, having observed that through the opportunity provided by their great wealth, large corporations misuse the legal system to overpower human beings and communities, thus denying the rights of the people. Recalling that corporations are not mentioned in the Constitution, that
right?
the people never granted constitutional rights to corporations, but that individual judges and courts have misguidedly done so without our consent.
It was a little sidebar thing.
Particularly disturbed that the rollback of the legal limits to corporate spending in elections creates an unequal playing field that enables corporations to influence elections, candidate selection, and policy decisions. Having seen that large corporations own most of America's mass media and use that media as a megaphone for their own agenda, drowning out other voices, with conviction that defining property as people is fundamentally immoral and a threat to real people, all other life forms, and the planet, be it resolved that the New York City General Assembly joins the millions of citizens, grassroots organizations, and local governments across the country in firmly asserting that money is not speech, that human beings, not corporations, are persons entitled to constitutional rights, and that the rights of human beings will never again be granted to fictitious entities or property. How? By making this resolution one of our public statements. Why? Corporate personhood is incompatible with democracy and individual sovereignty. We have the opportunity to declare our will to restore constitutional protections to human beings. Occupy Los Angeles came to consensus on a similar resolution on November 27, 2011, 2 days before they were evicted, and another on December the 5th, it goes on, the New York City Council, making this public statement a day before the City Council voted and before large-scale national actions marking the 2-year anniversary of Citizens United. So, positions OWS is a key voice in the dialogue and creates a powerful and resonant context that can rally more people to the movement. We propose this resolution as one of many strategies for self-empowerment, not as part of a political party or as an endorsement of the current political system, but as one of many parallel efforts at curbing corporate dominion. The group made their first attempt to present their proposal on New Year's Eve, but were interrupted by the events that unfolded that night involving a child's tent in Liberty Plaza, which resulted in the closing of the park. And that's the night that Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act and a whole bunch of other things.
Well, no, that wasn't January 17th when they Bloomberg and his army came down and closed it out?
This is New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. Oh,
yeah, after they were no longer camped out there, but they
you
still
watch
meet
the
there
clock
all day
if
every
you
day.
want. You're going to read the whole thing, or is that?
Well, it's almost over.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, read it.
They tried again the next night when the GA was moved to 100 William Street, only to be thwarted again by the police. But they did have a chance. They did have a chance to informally present their proposal to a small group who finally found a space to convene and got some necessary feedback. So, you know, this is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is impressive.
I mean,
that's a major issue.
This is the kind of work that they're doing. I mean, this is what they're doing out in the open, in the cold, in the streets.
Did you see the State of the Union address? There wasn't any mention of any of this in the State of the Union address with all those political power and everything. They were just seeing history in a more normal term, not something that's so, sweeping that you're going to do away. Are we going to do away with, as somebody said, capitalism? Are we going to do away with the banks? Are we going to do away with the private sector? Are we going to create a socialist? What's the output? What's the outreach, and how are we going to anchor to history, which has been unjust, with a form of something that's new, if we don't have an understanding of why something new is called for now, not 20 years ago, not 100 years ago.
This is in the works.
But now, something new is developing.
It's developing, but we don't know what it looks like yet.
Well, I know, but wouldn't it be good for us to get a definite understanding of what's going on?
It's preliminary. But that's why I'm telling you, there are all these different groups that coming from different parts of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
They can all support this. But we don't know how it's all going to come together.
We
yet.
did a program aired yesterday with Joe, and he said they should have people giving, Joe Friendly, our Joe Friendly here. He said they should have a thing where they can get ideas that can get out. I got a friend, DMT, wants to have a thing like American Idol. You got 5 minutes to put an idea out, and then the people will judge it. Different ways in which they can put
Americans
sound
are
bites
into
out.
fixing everything, and I think the brilliant thing here is they're basically shedding light on what's wrong. We can only think about fixing things.
Well, no,
but
that's
the next step.
What's wrong is legion. Everything is wrong.
I know,
when you
but
come to
people,
a point,
but people didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah, the video. We want to do this video.
Yes, bring on my
let's
friends
do that.
now.
Thank you for
bring
that.
Bring on the boys, Josh.
So, and we do. So let's play the video. I guess we're going to play just a few seconds of that.
We can continue to talk.
We can continue to talk. We can talk over it. So why don't you go ahead, Josh, push the button. It'll bring up a clip from V for Vendetta.
No, you don't want to. It's not. It's real. It's live. My live friend standing outside the studio here.
Oh, whatever. It's your live friends standing outside the studio here.
Hey, come on in, everybody.
Here we go. Pump the sound in here if you can, please.
So that's the end of our show tonight. And on behalf of Claudia and the entire Public Voice
I don't think they're getting my friends.
I'd like to wish you all a happy, healthy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
What is this? Oh, that's not it. Okay, we can't show the clip because we hadn't got it cued right. So, yeah, you ought to come back. They didn't get it cued right. They said they had it cued. They thought our helper thought they could get it cued, but they didn't. It's too bad. It's a scene of a mass number of people coming out to give, like the Potemkin, you know.
This is on V for Vendetta, where these masks came from.
Yeah, it was a thing that's too bad.
Right at the end of the movie, you know, the police are looking for the man wearing this mask, and you see hundreds and hundreds of these people coming out, you know, from all the streets.
But
converging.
okay, that's
and
good.
taking them off.
I think the biggest challenge isn't to get some sort of an idea of who the bad guys are, because they're legion. I think.
Yes, but most people didn't. Look, Harold, most people do not know exactly what is wrong with the system. You have to show people what's wrong with the system before they can want to do something about it.
I guess
most people didn't know this. They don't know. You know, we have a whole thing in this country where people believe that everything that goes wrong is their own personal fault.
Yeah, they lay that on people.
So you have to. I mean, this is what that's what that book, The Secret, was about. It was about telling you that you're in control of everything that happens to you.
Yeah, they want.
And if something goes wrong, it's because you didn't do things
right.
Yeah,
it's your fault. That's what a lot of people would try to do.
That's what they want. That's what these people who had the Glass-Steagall Act repealed and everything, that's what they want. They want us to believe that. So basically what these people are doing is they're telling people, hey, you know, it wasn't you, it was them. They've been manipulating you. So people have to wake up and know that before they can become outraged enough to stop taking their pills.
If they get
all sweep them out.
And sweep them out. Are we going to eliminate banks? Are we going to eliminate all the banks? Are we going to eliminate the Congress? Are we going to eliminate the executive, the president?
What we should do is
all corrupt.
What we should do in the next election is vote every single incumbent out of office. That's what a friend of mine believes, and I thought about it, and that's the solution.
In 2012, we're going to vote everybody out of office.
Everybody who's an incumbent, vote them all out of office.
Do you think that's going to happen?
I don't think it's going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. So why talk about it?
Well, no, because it would be good if somebody took that on as that would work.
Well, it would perhaps. I don't know. That's a major revolution happening, and it's also very quick. It's happening much more quick. I think we need to understand what's going on in a way where you can liberate people. I have a vision of that. And the ecology, we have a tremendous capability, equally existentially significant to the destruction of taking care of everybody. And we have to have a way of getting to that. And then it has to be something that'll liberate ecology and also touch base with history that will anchor us, that some will be able to haltingly go along with the outdated institutions so that we can have everybody included.
There has to be
That's the ultimate
there has to be a
challenge.
massive understanding of what's wrong in order for that to
Well,
happen.
we're trying to get at it, but when you bring up things,
No, but that's what the
how many
Occupy people are doing. They're telling people what's wrong. They're shedding light on everything. They're creating a consciousness of what's wrong.
Well, and one of them is the mortgage business that we're talking
Of
about. And
course.
that's a major one.
Yeah.
And the banks have gotten $16 trillion bailout and nothing. And then there was another one called slavery, and there was another one called all kinds of things coming out of history, which is a nightmare of injustice.
And now it's called jobs.
And now it's called jobs. We've got a big, great big problem in that. So thanks a lot, Nita.
Thank
Sorry,
you, Harold.
Run out of time. And thank you for viewing. I don't know, they're running this tape for some reason, but we'll talk over it, I guess. And that's it for now. Nita Renfrew's been our guest. Thank you very, very much indeed. We've got to get our tape thing done. So thanks for viewing, and we'll be coming back next week. Okay, thanks again for viewing. Nita, so good to see the
Well,
mask
thank you,
is
Harold.
great.
Yeah.